It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Never before on the Happy Families Podcast have we tried to cram so much news into one episode. And Kylie, I know that you roll your eyes every time we do this, but maybe we should do it more often. I don't know. This week in parenting. Sorry, I need to do it the proper way.
This week in parenting. That was terrible.
It really was. I wasn't expecting you to do it. Normally it's all me.
Well, I was joining you.
Join me. Here we go. This week. Oh, we got to count it in. 1, 2, 3.
This week in parenting.
Oh, my goodness, JR. I don't know what you can do with that. By the time this goes to air, we'll laugh and say, what were we thinking? 6 stories. 6 stories in 12 minutes. So 2 minutes each. There's so much to talk about. You're going to guide me through it and ask me any questions you have, but there is so much going on in the world of parenting and things related to parents and how we can help our families to be happy. The news media has been going absolutely gangbusters. Where do you want to start?
Well, the first story, Roblox,
yes. I love how every time we talk about Roblox on the podcast, you call it Roblox. Folks, in case you're wondering, we don't do Roblox in our house.
Roblox.
Do you remember Roblox with it, like ROBLOX?
Well, the first time I called it Roadblocks, and you got me in trouble.
We're improving.
Now I'm calling it Roblox.
Let's get to the story.
We're seeing examples of these cases shifting from the online world into the offline world, where kids are being physically kidnapped, abducted, and sexually assaulted by predators who have connected with them on Roblox.
The article suggests that Roblox is
a pedophile hellscape for kids. Here's the deal. So Hindenburg Research is a company over in the US. They look at stock that is overvalued. And I'm going to get all stock markety for a second, but stay with me because this is important. Essentially, if you end up on their list, if you short a company, what that basically means is that you're making a prediction about it. You're buying shares with a short-term expectation that that company is going to tank and you're going to make a whole lot of money, or you're selling shares or whatever it is. And Hindenburg Research, if they talk about your company, it means that you're in trouble. So Hindenburg, and the reason I'm talking about this is because it relates to a game that so many of our kids are on. Well, not our kids, but everyone else's kids, because we don't let our kids play it. And what Hindenburg have basically said is Roblox is a $27 billion online gaming company. And it has been losing so much money. In the last 12 months, losses totaled $1.07 billion. It's not profitable as a company. It hasn't been since it went public. But here's the critical thing, and this is why it's on This Week in Parenting. Its stock price and, in turn, people's ability to make money with the stock is completely reliant on the growth metrics that Roblox gives, because it's required to Wall Street. Publicly listed company has to give a whole lot of metrics to Wall Street so that they can make decisions. And what Hindenburg Research have said is our research indicates that Roblox is lying to investors, regulators, and advertisers about the number of people, in inverted commas, people on its platform, inflating the key metric by between 25 and 42%.
That's insane.
That is insane. But there's more. Since prior to going public, Roblox has reported the number of people, in inverted commas, on its platform in dozens of official investor communications. They say that there are over 54.1 million people coming into Roblox every single day. But what they're basically saying is the daily active users, they reckon that there's numerous accounts run by single people. There's also bot accounts and alternate accounts and that kind of thing. So they're essentially lying to keep their stock price high. And the last thing that they highlight, which is probably the most important thing, I've buried the lead. I should have started with this, is that for the second quarter of 2024, as they push towards profitability, Roblox reported a 2% year-over-year decline in its trust and safety expenses. Core to the problem is that Roblox's social media features allow pedophiles to efficiently target hundreds of children with no upfront screening to prevent them from joining the platform. As an example, in 2018, prior to Roblox going public, a 29-year-old was caught by police with 175 hours of video footage of him grooming and engaging in explicit behavior with 150 minors using online platforms, namely Roblox. And at hindenburgresearch.com/Roblox, they go through all the other stuff that's there. Why am I sharing this? I'm sharing it for 2 reasons. Number one, this is a public listed company that is making doing its best. It's certainly there are shareholders who are making real money as they buy and sell these shares, and these people are profiting off the exploitation of our children. And I just want to emphasize again, there is so much evidence that these guys are engaging in allowing a pedophile hellscape to exist. That's all. That's my This Week in Parenting about Roblox. Next, unless you've got questions.
To me, it just seems so disgraceful that something that literally is unlawful is allowed to happen in broad daylight without any form of justice
so there's this
or
thing,
protection for our kids.
There's this thing in the United States, and I'm not a lawyer and I haven't read this carefully, but there's a section in the United States law around technology called Section 230. And essentially what it does is it absolves the carriers, it absolves the Metas and the Robloxes and so on of any responsibility for what users do on the platform.
Yeah, but that's disgraceful because they've created the platform for users to use.
And they've not put any safety measures in place.
There's no safety measures in there.
Which I do find kind of extraordinary, because if I owned a restaurant and the head of the mafia was hanging out in my restaurant and doing business deals, I think that I would also get in trouble from law enforcement. It's somewhere. If I had a hotel and people were engaging in explicit and illicit illegal activities in my hotel, I would be shut down. Like that's what most laws in most countries would do. But this Section 230 exempts the tech companies. It completely absolves them of responsibility, and they are riding this thing as far as they can to prop up their share price and do awful things. Anyway, the take-home message on This Week in Parenting for this one is Roblox is a pedophile hellscape for kids. It's really, if you're going to let your kids be on there, and I don't think that you should, but if you're going to, you've got to be monitoring, you've got to be aware, and you've got to be having conversations constantly about the risks that are associated. Keep them on devices in public places. They never to friend somebody that they don't know and then go to some other platform. You've just got to know what's going on.
Well, this flows in beautifully into our second article.
It is universally accepted that parenting is difficult, but now the U.S. Surgeon General says parenting may be hazardous to your health.
Yeah, Kylie, this one was published in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago now. In fact, I'm going back about 6 weeks, because I'm a little bit behind on This Week in Parenting. But the US Surgeon General has issued a warning, literally, and I quote, parenting can be harmful to your mental health.
Dr. Vivek Murthy wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. He issued an advisory calling attention to the stress and mental health concerns facing parents and caregivers.
The report cites the American Psychological Association, saying nearly half of parents report overwhelming stress most days. I mean, that's just such a staggering number. Half of parents report overwhelming stress most days, compared with 26% of other adults. They're lonelier as well, according to cited data. In a 2021 survey, 65% of parents said they were lonely, compared to 55% of those without kids.
In some ways, parenting has changed so much over the generations. And what we do now, we are so much more involved in our kids' lives than we've ever been before. And that has definitely got some amazing benefits to our children and to us. But there's also limitations around that. And the idea that we feel lonely and isolated is real, because our entire lives revolve around our children, instead of what would have happened in my grandparents' time, where the kids went off to school, they took care of themselves, they came home, and mum and dad fed them.
Well, it's not that it wasn't that simple. It's not that they took care of themselves. It's that the community, it's that society did so.
Yeah,
parenting was,
I'm being a little bit glibber with time.
I get it. Yeah, parenting was once a team sport. It really is an individual sport now, and I think that's the greatest challenge. Too many parents feel like they're doing it alone.
Yeah.
Mothers groups aren't as cohesive or as common as they used to be. And I know that's gendered, but that's what they always were. The community and the structures in community that we used to have are simply either not there or not as strong as they once were. And there's a whole lot less trust in the community. We look at people around us and we don't trust them like we once did. Beyond that, we've got digital age dangers. Once upon a time, kids really did have play-based childhoods, and now that has changed to screen-based childhoods. That's what Jonathan Haidt talked all about in The Anxious Generation. But I also think that there's a narrative now around parenting. And that narrative, I mean, I had Angela Mollard, columnist and commentator on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, talking about how parenting needs a new PR job. Because when you look at what happens on TikTok and on Instagram and the narrative around parenting, the narrative is, this is hard. This is breaking me. I don't know if I've got what it takes to do this. And we're having fewer kids, but we're investing so much more in them, which increases the pressure on us and on them, increases the anxiety, makes everyone else feel it. So does parenting need to stress you out? Do we need a mental health warning on parenting like we have a health warning on a packet of cigarettes? I don't think so. What I think we've forgotten how to do is have fun. I just think we don't have nearly as much fun as we used to when it comes to our families. And we've also decided that we have to
do it all.
And it's not fair. No one's supposed to be able to do it all. So that's my second story for this week in parenting.
Over the last handful of months, we've talked about the fact that there has been cries from the community for age limits to be put on social media. And Meta has finally made an announcement.
Yeah, social media. This was in the Daily Telegraph about 3 weeks ago. Social media giant Meta wants Australia to make parents responsible for approving what apps children under the age of 16 download, denying this was shirking its duty to protect kids online. That was their big announcement. We want to help parents, and we're going to help parents by putting the responsibility onto parents. I love this. This company, they are just doing absolutely everything they can to bear no responsibility for the tremendous damage that's being done to children and young people around the world, because it's not about them. The laws allow them to do it, and therefore, if people want to make an outcry, then they need to step up and shoulder the responsibility. And it is just not fair.
I think if you go back to the previous story that we just talked about, this idea that parents are having to do it on their own, the village is no longer there. There are no safeguards in place, and people are happy to be remunerated for their creations and inventions at the expense of our children and that sense of village and community.
Yeah, I think that they're liable. I think there's really big challenges here. Meta's goal seems to be that they want to look like they're doing something without actually doing anything. Their support for age verification, that's great. They're saying, yeah, age verification is necessary, but their proposal, totally inadequate. Social media companies, make no mistake, are causing immense harm to our kids. Let me say this a different way, because this is one of those arguments where people say, no, the problem isn't social media, it's the people on social media. It's kind of like in the United States with the whole gun debate, right? Guns don't kill people, people kill people. So I was at a school recently and gave a presentation about respectful relationships. A young man came up to me afterwards in one of the senior years of high school. So this isn't a little kid, this is a big kid. And he described the things that have been happening to him online from a bunch of other kids in the school, where they've been catfishing him, where they've been bullying him, where social media platforms have been used to absolutely destroy this kid. Just hurt him so much to the point where he has considered taking his own life. And what's going on here is Meta is saying, well, no, we can't do anything about this at all. We can't help. But what we do want to do is we want to encourage parents to be aware of the apps that their children are downloading, and then everything will be okay. Number one, I think most parents do have a pretty decent idea of what apps their kids have downloaded and what apps their kids are using. I really believe that they know. They might not know what's going on the apps, but they know what the kids are using. But number two, just knowing that your kids have the app doesn't protect them. In the US, there's what's known as COSPA, the Kids Online Safety and Protection Act. And the very day that was to be debated in the United States Congress or Senate or whatever it was, Meta shows up on breakfast TV and says, we're introducing this, and this safety feature on Instagram to keep kids safe. The day that the politicians are going to debate it. How convenient. Haven't been able to come up with anything to help the kids until now. And now, all of a sudden, well, look at that. The technology's there. Anyway, we've been talking way too long. There are 6 stories. I don't think we're going to have time for them all because we've done 3 and our time is almost up. I reckon we need to call it quits there, and maybe we do another This Week in Parenting next week.
Oh, you're such a cheat.
Well, I'm sorry. We can't do the other 3 in the time we've got. It's just not going to fit. Can you live with it?
I can live with it.
Okay. The Happy Families podcast. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for allowing me. I don't know what I was thinking when I said we could do 6.
Well, at least we didn't tell them what we were talking about.
Yeah, every now and again, I'm like, let's do 4, let's do 5. And you're like, what are you doing? And we've only gotten through 3. It's because there's so much going on. Oh, by the way, did I mention that Parental Guidance Season 3 is coming back next year?
You have not.
I can't believe it. And I'm dropping it at the end of the pod like that. More news on that coming up soon. Parental Guidance Season 3 is back.
Woo!
On Channel 9 with yours truly.
Pull out the popcorn.
And Ali Langdon. We'll tell you more about that. I don't know, maybe in I'll Do Better Tomorrow. I reckon we can do that. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Thank you, JR, for the great work that you do. If you'd like more information about making your family happier, if you would like to join us in this incredible course that we're running for autistic I was going to say for autistic kids. It is, but really it's for parents of autistic kids. You get me, you get Dr. Joey, who is a TikTok star. She's also a psychologist, runs Noodle Psychology in Brisbane and is autistic herself. And you get like an 80-page workbook that gives you all the information you need. Early Bird's about to finish. You can find all the information at happyfamilies.com.au or on our social media pages on those companies that I have so much to say about, Facebook and Instagram. Just check us out there. Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families.